The first hint that Susan was going to be trouble arrived in the form of a pink envelope taped to my front door. It wasn't mailed or handed to me, just stuck there, passive-aggressively, right beside the welcome sign my daughter, Mia, had painted during lockdown. Inside was a note from the HOA, typed in Comic Sans and printed off-kilter, citing me for a decorative violation. The crime? A sunflower-shaped garden gnome, deemed too whimsical. I might have laughed, except it came with a $50 fine and an order to remove it immediately to uphold community standards. That's when I first spotted her. Susan, wraparound sunglasses perched on her nose, clutching an HOA clipboard like it was a sacred relic. She was across the street, attacking her already pristine hedges with the fury of someone settling a personal score. I waved politely. She didn't wave back, just pointed at my gnome and shook her head, as if I'd planted a cursed scarecrow in my yard. Mia caught it on Video for TikTok, captioning it, "Susan hates joy." It got a decent number of views, but Susan wasn't thrilled about her surprise starring role. That weekend, my recycling bin mysteriously stayed full while everyone else's got emptied. Then came the anonymous complaints. Our wind chimes were audibly disruptive, and the fairy lights on our porch were blinking too provocatively. I had to read that one twice. Meanwhile, Mia got weirdly hooked on documenting our neighborhood nemesis. She nicknamed her Helinoich the HOA enforcer, complete with ominous music and a tally of petty violations. The next offense? My irregular rose bush, which Susan claimed sent the wrong message to kids. I didn't realize flowers came with a moral code. Susan, who doubled as HOA president and self-appointed guardian of suburban VY2, had decided my gnome banishment wasn't enough. She started watching our house. I caught her peering from her blinds more than once, like a ghostly figure haunting her own window. Then came the birds. I love birds and put out seed, but Susan claimed my feeder attracted ethically questionable pigeons, her exact words. When that didn't stick, she reported us for non-compliant grass height. Our lawn was 2.5 inches. HOA rules allowed 2 to 3. This was war, but not with guns. Susan waged it with bylaws, citations, and those infernal pink envelopes. Mia fought back with the Susan watched TikTok series, narrating each episode like a crime drama. In one clip, Susan was caught measuring our Halloween tombstone angles with a protractor apparently too eerie for a Tuesday. She filed yet another complaint, but the breaking point came with a noise violation at 3:45 p.m. for suspicious laughter. It was Mia giggling on FaceTime with a friend. Susan called it a disruption to the serene post-lunch digestion window. That phrase alone was a masterpiece of absurdity. I stayed calm. I even tried talking to her once, offering coffee and a chance to find common ground. She refused unless I repainted our teal front door to its approved beige. I said no, obviously. That night, Mia caught Susan snapping flash photos of our porch at 1 a.m. No one knows why. Mia added creepy music and dubbed it Paranormal HOATIVY. Susan wasn't amused. She issued a final warning for content creation conflicting with neighborly harmony, but we didn't back down. What began as a nosy neighbor flexing over lawn decor was about to spiral into a suburban nightmare. The day Susan went from irritating to unhinged started normally until I opened the back door and nearly stepped on a dead cat. Not just any cat, a stiff, matted gray tabby sprawled on our clean patio like a grim offering. Mia screamed, I flinched, and even our dog, Rusty Golden Retriever who thinks he's a wolf, whimpered and backed off. We don't own a cat, but everyone knew who did, the Wilsons down the street. Their 14-year-old Mr. Whiskers, an indoor-outdoor nap enthusiast famous for sunbathing and ambushing ankles, was now very dead in our yard. Then Mia checked our new backyard camera installed after the 1 a.m. photo incident and we saw the truth. There was Susan, gloved hands clutching the lifeless Mr. Whiskers, hoisting him over our 6-foot fence with surgical precision. No hesitation, no emotion, just a clean toss. The cat flopped into our yard like a discarded toy. Susan dusted off her gloves, adjusted her visor, and strolled away as if she'd just dropped off a casserole. We watched the footage 3 times to believe it. Oh my God, Mia whispered, already recording a TikTok reaction. She yeeted at him. I wanted to laugh, but I was trembling too much. Animal control confirmed Mr. Whiskers died of old trauma, just making it clear Susan had found him dead somewhere, and, for reasons only her twisted HOA logic could justify, decided to make him our problem. The kicker? Less than an hour later, another pink envelope arrived, fining us for improper containment of animal remains. She'd tossed the cat, then penalized us for it. You can't make this up. Mia posted the video censored with cat emojis and dramatic music, and it blew up overnight. Susan the cat tosser became the internet's latest VY lane. Millions watched in disbelief. Who chucks a dead cat like a dodgeball? One commenter wrote. Another quipped she sacrificed Mr. Whiskers to the HOA gods. While the internet laughed, Susan didn't. She stormed over the next morning, furious, accusing us of defamation and juvenile slander, demanding we remove the video. I calmly explained it was filmed on our property with our camera, breaking no laws. Her response? TikTok isn't a courtroom. She threatened legal action and put our household on social probation. Not even a real thing in the HOA's overstuffed rulebook. The Wilsons were heartbroken until we showed them the footage. Mrs. Wilson cried, Mr. Wilson muttered about grabbing a shotgun but settled for calling an emergency HOA meeting. That's when Susan's perfect little empire started to crack. Turns out this wasn't her first corpse relocation. One neighbor recalled their Halloween skeleton mysteriously catching fire last year. Susan blamed spontaneous decoration ignition. Another admitted she'd once tossed a raccoon carcass over their fence, saying it's closer to your trash. Susan had a pattern, and now we had proof. Mia's video didn't just go viral, it became denke. I filed an HOA complaint, but Susan chaired the disciplinary committee, so it was dismissed in a day. We escalated to city code enforcement. Susan doubled down, leafleting the neighborhood with flyers accusing us of digital sabotage and claiming our gnome was possessed by Gen Z chaos. She even tried to ban surveillance equipment capturing natural neighbor behavior or failed miserably. By then, people were really talking. What started with the dead cat had become a suburban scandal, and Susan was about to learn that messing with a teen with 2.4 million TikTok followers was a terrible mistake. By the next Monday, Susan went full authoritarian. Not satisfied with bylaws or pink envelopes, she issued new rules typed in all caps, laminated, and taped to every mailbox. Titled Neighborhood Decorum Emergency Guidelines. It was a manifesto with footnotes and color-coded bullets. Basically martial law for lawns and TikTok. Rule 1. No filming neighbors without written consent, bolded in neon yellow. Mia, sipping iced coffee, read it aloud on livestream, calling it the First Amendment, but only if Susan approves. Rule 3 banned unauthorized pet memorials. A dig at the Wilsons' new flower bed for Mr. Whiskers. Rule 5, kids under 18 couldn't make unsupervised said verbal commentary in public spaces, clearly targeting Mia's snarky videos. To enforce this, Susan formed a neighborhood compliance squad, herself, her friend Linda, and a guy named Greg, who no one recognized. Greg wore VY8ers and carried a clipboard but didn't seem to live here. Linda once yelled about a dog looking too trendy at an HOA potluck. They issued notices of community misalignment, homemade tickets with Susan's cursive signature, and a tiny gavel sticker. One neighbor got cited for their toddler's unpredictable sprinkler patterns, another paid $25 for excessive sidewalk cheer while jogging. Meanwhile, Mia's TikTok following skyrocketed. Susan's reign of ridiculousness became a series. She filmed Susan marching down the street like a toy soldier general, adding military drums and slow-mo effects. Susan's line, "This is a noise violation zone," turned into a TikTok sound trend. Susan lost it, sending a cease and desist letter she obviously wrote herself, threatening federal HOA jurisdiction, not a real thing. She tried a mandatory re-education meeting for loyal neighbors. Only Greg showed up, with chips. Frustrated, Susan turned to intimidation, telling a 9-year-old his chalk art was near graffiti and asking if he was in a gang, accusing the Garcias wind chimes of sonic aggression and warning the book club their mystery novel bred anti-authority VY Bess. Mia caught most of it on camera. Comments were brutal. She's one citation away from starting a suburban militia. This is what happens when Pinterest and unchecked power collide. Local news picked it up. An anchor read aloud Susan's rule against flamingos over 14 inches and cracked up on air. Susan called the station, accusing them of joining the TikTok conspiracy. HA members started bailing too, resigned, one citing emotional burnout, another just writing, "I'm done with her." Susan retaliated with a cardboard cutout of herself at the HOA clubhouse, captioned, "Respect isn't optional." It vanished overnight. Rumor has it Greg used it for target practice. Susan slipped further, filing 5 complaints in a day, including one for suspicious porch enjoyment. The final straw? She tried banning lemonade stands for unlicensed sugar distribution. That united the kids. They held a free lemonade, free speech event in our yard. Susan arrived with her squad, but Linda claimed she just wanted cookies and Greg shrugged, "I don't even live here." Alone, Susan tried issuing a neighborhood lockdown while VYing a sign reading, "Citizens must comply." A passing car honked, yelling, "We love you, TikTok Susan." She screamed, ripped the sign apart, and stormed off, her rulebook scattering like fallen propaganda. Mia turned to me, laughing. Is this where she declares war on the HOA itself? I wasn't sure, but her empire was crumbling and the collapse was near. The real unraveling began when our neighbor Ellen, book club treasurer and accountant, had enough. At a sparsely attended HOA meeting, Susan and her cardboard cutout were the only regulars. Ellen demanded an audit of the HOA's finances. Normally, these were quick glances at receipts, followed by grumbling. But Ellen went forensic. "If Susan can fine us for aggressive flower symmetry, we deserve to know where the money's going," she told our group chat. We expected a stray coffee receipt, not do law. 14,000 in HOA dues funneled into community enhancement, aka Susan's personal projects. Receipts showed a monogrammed mailbox cover, her initials, imported tulips only in her yard, and a DULA 900 mural of Susan wielding a gavel over a burning birdhouse, painted by her cousin on her garage. There was a neighborhood defense budget, walkie-talkies and vests labeled Susan Unit Alpha. Greg's had cost DULA 78, Linda's had tassels. The worst? A DULA 1,200 surveillance solutions expense. Mia gasped, "Did she use our money to spy on us?" Ellen found the invoice. Susan hired a security firm to monitor reputational threats, anyone with over 1,000 followers. "She's been cyberstalking us with our dues," I said, stunned. Ellen nodded, "And she's probably watched Mia's TikToks more than her fans." The chat erupted. Neighbors admitted Susan ordered old blueprints to nitpick window sizes and had a dog walker tailed and photographed. Ellen compiled a 23-page report, expenditures and excessive entitlements, the Susan files, and sent it to the city oversight board and HOA lawyer. The city responded fast. Susan barricaded her HOA office, her spare room, and claimed slander-induced trauma. Mia filmed her yelling about financial witch hunts through a screen door caption, "Susan hides from her own receipts." It hit 1 million views in hours. Susan countered with a 4-page newsletter, "The truth about my innocence and yours," starting with a Sun Tzu quote and ending with a blurry photo of her frowning by a burning trash can, symbolizing what the internet's doing to our values. She blamed Greg. He posted a 10-second clip shrugging, "I just wanted free snacks, dude." The HOA lawyer finally spoke. "I strongly suggest Susan resigns to avoid further exposure." That word exposure sent her spiraling. She issued an emergency order of silence, banning group chats, TikTok, and mouth noises near her property. Legal and absurd. With the audit public, neighbors turned. One suggested renaming the garden after Mr. Whiskers. The Wilsons agreed. Ellen froze HOA spending until Susan's ouster passed 17-0. Realizing her reign was over, Susan fled to an ethics retreat in Idaho, leaving a sticky note on her mailbox. "Enjoy your TikToks, you'll miss order when it's gone." Mia read it on camera, sighing, "Lady, we'll only miss your drama." We thought it was over. But the city's investigation dug deeper, and what they found in the HOA files made the cat toss seem tame. Days after Susan's retreat, Ellen got an anonymous envelope labeled "Check the permits." Inside were building applications, receipts, and a business card for Perfect Harmony Property Solutions LLC registered to Susan's address. It looked like a landscaping gig, but Ellen cross-checked its income with HOA mandates. For 18 months, Susan had been writing fines, then profiting by fixing them through her shell company. The teal door ban? 2 neighbors hired her firm to repaint. The gnome height crackdown? She sold approved replacements on Etsy as Ciavoya Gray Susan. The DULA 900 mural? A tax write-off, billed to the HOA as beautification. Every violation was a sales lead, every fine an upsell. She'd find people for not using her SARE VYCS, creating a self-made monopoly. Ellen, wide-eyed, called me. She turned the HOA into a racket without the middleman. Mia found Susan's at Sistel Active selling compliance as kindness signs and overpriced gnomes. Revyus complained of shoddy quality and delays due to neighborhood unrest. A local journalist broke the story. HOA tyrant tied to landscaping laundering scheme. It wasn't just TikTok teens watching. Now City Council, ethics boards, and fraud units took notice. Susan, still in Idaho, posted a rant blaming toxic social media and calling her LLC a misunderstood passion project. Signed Future Entrepreneur of the Year. Too late, the neighborhood was LVYD. Even Linda distanced herself, posting, "I was just here for the tassel vest. My time in Susan's regime," revealing Susan's plan to trademark Community Cleanliness Cures Chaos and launch a motivational speaking gig. Ellen filed fraud and misuse charges with the city. Susan's LLC was suspended, accounts frozen, Etsy shut down. Mia, in a nicer VY vet the HOA apocalypse shirt, told a news crew, "Susan taught us one thing. Don't toss dead animals on camera if you're running a scam." It aired nationally, dubbed Tiger King, Suburb Edition. Susan trended for days under the Gnome Gate and the fraud fertilizer. Subpoenas were issued, but she stayed off-grid until an anonymous video showed her at an Idaho retreat, lecturing 3 confused retirees on aesthetics as power, still quoting bylaws. Reality was closing in, and the city's audit uncovered something so damning her last allies would ditch her for good. The sheriff's cruiser rolled in on a Thursday afternoon. Susan had returned, parking her Volvo like she hadn't fled a financial scandal. She waved at neighbors as if she hadn't turned our street into her fiefdom. Mia filmed from her window, whispering, "The suburban dictator re-enters her domain, unaware justice awaits." The officer stepped out, holding a thick file. Susan, pulling a binder from her purse, started, "Is this about the lemonade stand?" "I have proof," he cut her off. "Susan Marie Harper, you're under investigation for financial misconduct, falsifying documents, abusing nonprofit status, and misusing funds." Her face paled. "This is a mistake. I kept impeccable records, emotionally and digitally." The sheriff turned to Linda, now in a sequin robe and leopard slippers. "Still HOA chair?" Linda grinned. "Not anymore. We voted while she was gone 16-0. I quit, and Ellen's interim president." Susan gasped. "You can't replace me. This HOA needs structure." Ellen stepped up, "And you left a trail like a crime novel." No dramatic arrest, just a quiet walk to the car as neighbors watched from lawn chairs. Mia's live stream hit 80,000 VYUs as Susan muttered about TikTok smear campaigns from the back seat. After she left, Linda burned Susan's emergency guidelines with a tiki torch to cheers. Kids banged pots. Flamingo balloons soared. Ellen called a picnic-style HOA meeting in the park, dissolving Susan's rules unanimously. The Wilsons got lifetime HOA immunity. Greg, back from paintball, offered to Diju, declined. Ellen's final motion? Rename the HOA, Whiskers Peace Pact 19-0. Mia's recap, set to Ride of the Valkyries, featured Susan's gnome pointing and Cloud yelling, ending with, "She broke her own rule, didn't make a scene on someone's lawn." It hit 5.4 million VYUs. Susan's Etsy was banned, her LLC dissolved, and a court settlement funded 5 years of community events starting with a cat screening. Susan? She's in a condo under a stricter HOA. Banned from leadership, told, "We've handled your kind before." Justice served. Mia's final TikTok wasn't snarky, it was a cinematic 3-minute saga of Susan's rise and fall, with HOA absurdities, interviews, and the cat toss in slow-mo. Narrating dramatically, she quoted Susan's bylaws, ending by the new Whiskers Peace Pact sign, "Where gnomes roam free." It exploded 12 million VYUs. A talk show, YouTuber, and Netflix scouted her. An influencer collective offered her, Neighborhood Watch, a web series on HOA tales. "Susan accidentally launched my career," Mia said, stunned. She got a lawn care deal, podcast spot, and I survived the HOA apocalypse tease. Ripples spread. Neighbors nationwide shared HOA horrors, pool float fines, flamingo citations. A law firm used Susan's case for HOA abuse lawsuits, calling Mia's video Exhibit A. Ellen started Suburban Peace Consulting. Greg reenacted Susan's rants on TikTok. Susan. A leaked video showed her in Idaho, decrying digital terrorism to a projector of Mia's clips. Memes made her the HOA Hydra. Our community thrived on regulated flowers, permit-free lemonade, a Mr. Whiskers mural. A councilwoman passed Susan's law for HOA transparency sparked by our fight. Susan, who ruled by fear, unwittingly fueled reform all from a dead cat, a VY Ral VY Deo, and a teen who kept recording. 6 months later, our street was a new world democratic HOA, 5-sentence bylaws, free-roaming gnomes. Then Mia showed me a TikTok. Susan at a garden center, measuring plant spacing with a cracked whiteboard, order is everything. Before being wheeled out, yelling about unauthorized mulch. She'd become a meme, a suburban cryptid. Banned from HOA power, she lived in an apartment under a strict tenant board, denied decor requests, planting petunias for a landscaping gig she didn't design. Back home, we planted herbs in her old yard, awarded most whimsical lawn, and held Freedom Fence Day with the Gnome Parade. Mia played the cat toss yearly laughter, not at Susan's cruelty, but our VY Tory. She got a scholarship, Ellen a contract, Greg a Home Depot discount. Susan? Dirt under her nails, planting someone else's VY Siona tyrant root bound, while we grew stronger because of her and forever without her.